Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now call this scheduled meeting of the Brevard County Board of Adjustments to order. And with 4 board members, we do have a quorum to move forward. Before we do move forward, I'd like to discuss a change in chairship positions. I was honored to be voted as the chairperson several months ago, but for personal reasons, I'm going to have to step down. And I know that Mr. Huffman has experience. He's been the chairperson in the past, and I would recommend replacing myself with Mr. Huffman as the next chairperson for the remainder of my term.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
No discussion.
Okay. All in favor of Mr. Huffman becoming chairperson?
Aye.
Aye. I hand the gavel over to Mr. Huffman.
Well, as former vice chair and now chairman, we need to find a replacement vice chairman. So I'm not sure if I think I can make a nomination even as a chair. Well, I'm going to. I nominate Sonia Mallard to be vice chair for the committee.
Second.
We have a nomination and a second. Any discussion? Now's your chance.
Run.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Ms. Mallard, you are the vice chairman, and there'll be a reading that you need to do that I will hand over to you, or it will be that one, and I'll call on you at that time. Before we get into that, Mr. Bodie, would you describe the function of the Board of Zoning Adjustment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body established by the Board of County Commissioners under Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 4 of the Brevard County Code. The Board of Adjustment is empowered to hear requests for variance to the zoning regulation and the sign regulation, Chapter 62, Article 6, and Article 9. Pursuant to Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure, any person or persons jointly or severally aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 30 days after the date the order is signed, apply to a court of competent jurisdiction for appropriate relief. Mr. Chairman, you have 6 items on your agenda today.
Thank you, Mr. Bodie. As our brand-new vice chairperson, chairwoman, chairperson, I don't know what the yet. Anyway, would you do the second reading, which is the definition of an undue hardship?
An undue hardship. A variance may be granted when it will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will result in unnecessary and undue hardship. The term undue hardship has a specific legal definition in this context and essentially means that without the requested variance, the applicant will have no reasonable use of the subject property under existing development regulations. Personal medical reasons shall not be considered as grounds for establishing undue hardship sufficient to qualify an applicant for a variance. Economic reasons may be considered only in instances where the landowner cannot yield a reasonable use and/or a reasonable return under the existing land development regulations. The applicant must answer a variance hardship worksheet with 6 questions. The Board of Adjustments will discuss these questions today with each applicant who has requested a variance.
Thank you, Ms. Mallard. Next, I'm going to talk about our board procedures and how we're going to run the meeting today. So I will now address our board members, the applicants, and our audience regarding the board procedures for today's hearings. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, as a quasi-judicial board with members appointed by the Brevard County Board of Commissioners, will utilize Robert's Rules of Order to conduct its proceedings. The chair is asking all board members not to ask questions while the applicants are making their initial presentations. Once the applicants have completed their presentation, we will begin board questioning with a board member who represents the applicant's district. When concluded, the questioning is open to the full board. The chair will recognize each board member in turn. Once all board members have completed their questioning, we will then open the floor to the audience who may be here to speak concerning the applicant's application. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak will be given the opportunity to address the board once and only once. So be concise, be complete. At the conclusion of public comment, the applicant will be given additional time for rebuttal, as well as present their final comments. Once completed, no further comment will be heard from the applicant or the public. The action then moves to this side of the board. We will not use a timer for this meeting. However, we are asking each speaker to be concise in what they have to say. It is important that you stay on the subject and avoid information that is not relevant. We've got a lot of applications today. We don't want to be here till after supper time. All persons speaking must provide their name and address for the public record. Those wishing not to verbally state their address may ask the clerk at the podium for an address card. Please fill it out and return to the clerk. The next item of business is a motion to approve the meeting minutes, but prior to that, I think there is an edit that is needed in the first paragraph of the April 17th meeting minutes, in that it states Chair Dale Rhodes. I think we had a copy and paste going forward. That's the only correction that I saw.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the correction of Vice Chair Bill Huffman presiding over the April 17, 2024 meeting rather than Chair or former Chair Dale Rhodes.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the meeting minutes are approved as amended. Now we get into the part that everyone's here for. Mr. Bodie, may we have our first applicant, please?
Yes, item G1, variance application 24V00010, Daniel Fluett and Eileen Smith request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-14047, to permit a variance of 5 feet from the required 10-foot minimum separation distance required between structures in a TR-3 mobile home park zoning classification. And this is located at tax account number 2848690 in District 3.
Name and address for the record, please.
The name is Daniel Fluett. The address is 405 Peace Lane in Melbourne Beach.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how may we help you?
Well, we'd like to build a carport over our existing driveway, and found out we needed the variance for setbacks.
Okay.
Concise.
All right.
Evidently, there's quite a few variances in our park because lot sizes have changed. They used to be 30 feet, now they're 40. A lot of people have carports already, and that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to cover the driveway so our vehicles and us are not in the full sun all day.
Your application arises in District 3, which unfortunately our member is absent today, so I will, or delayed maybe, I will begin the questioning.
Okay.
Not sure I have too many. How close is this to project towards the road? Is
No.
that the setback, or is it a side setback?
Side.
Side setback. And I saw there was some correspondence here. Have the neighbors commented on that?
Yes, we had two directly across, and the neighbor on either side, all wrote letters.
Okay? And they were all in agreement?
All happy about it, yes.
Oh, okay. That's really all the questions I have. I will turn it over to, open to the board. Does anyone else have any questions on the board?
I just want to
Dr.
get
Bass?
a confirmation. You said that this would be over an existing driveway,
Yes,
right? So
Mhm.
you already have the cement poured. Okay.
yes.
Any other questions?
Are there other carports on your street with the other neighbors?
Oh, yeah,
Right, so, and it's consistent with the neighborhood?
exactly.
Is there an association,
Yes.
and are they in support of this?
Yes, one of the letters was from the ARC committee. They've already approved us to go ahead. As long as you guys approve it, they approve it.
Thank you.
Ms. Mallard?
No, I see that letter from ARC. No questions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, before, if this board so desires to grant the variance, what I would suggest that you add a condition that the existing shed be removed with that because it does not meet the setbacks.
There's an existing
There's an
shed.
existing shed
The
that,
applicant said he could move it.
yeah. And so I want to make sure that that's part of the motion.
Okay.
The shed has already been moved.
Okay, we'll just put it in writing in the motion. Okay. Could you
Wait, one
just-
question.
Oh,
When was the
yes,
shed moved?
I had some friends move it before I got into town. So like, I think it was the 5th, maybe?
Of this month?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Part of our procedure is to ask the audience for comments, so if you could just step aside, please. Just, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Seeing none. Turn, any final comments?
No,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve this variance with the depicted on the survey with a revision date of 2/28/24,
With the removal of,
with the removal of the existing shed that was removed on May 5th.
okay?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Then we will move to, oh yes, we will move to reading the 6.
6 points.
So as part of the procedure, these are the 6 questions that the board vote will be based upon. Number 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification, that literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Number 5, that the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. And 6, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With that on the record, I will call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your variance is granted by by unanimous vote. Okay? Okay. We'll make sure that that's noted correctly. Okay.
Very good, thank you.
If the motion was incorrect, what I would suggest is that you reopen it to fix the motion.
Okay. So instead of remove, we need move in your motion, if you could read it again.
So
You make a motion.
I make a motion to accept the variance as
Okay,
depicted
all
by the
right. So
survey.
from a Robert's Rules perspective, first you need to make a motion to reopen since you've already, since the motion has
Okay.
been
Okay.
approved.
Okay. I need a motion to reopen the applicant's motion.
I make a motion
Okay.
Okay?
to reopen.
And I make a motion to
Second.
second.
Okay. It's reopened. Now we need the motion.
Now you need, well, now you need
Sorry.
to vote to
Yes.
reopen.
All right. All in favor of reopening the motion?
Aye.
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 No opposed.
Okay, now you can move on to
Oh,
the
thank you.
revised motion.
All right. Now we're up at you.
I make a motion to revise my previous motion to accept the,
Accept the
to
variance.
accept the variance
As depicted.
as depicted on the survey with a date of 2/28/24. The existing shed was moved.
Moved.
To meet setbacks.
To what?
To meet setbacks.
To meet setbacks.
Okay.
Okay, to meet setbacks.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. McCann seconded. Any discussion? All right. I will call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Okay.
It did, it still passed, but now you, with the moved shed, not the removed shed.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item G2, variance 24V00011. Gloria and Ken White request variance in Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-2118D3, to permit a variance of 2.78 feet over the 16-foot maximum projection, 20% of the width of the waterway for a dock together with a moored watercraft into a canal in a PUD, Plan Unit Development Zoning Classification. And this is located at tax account number 2606272 in District 4.
Okay. Would the applicant please come forward? Name and address, please.
My name's Gloria White. I live at 465 Lanternback Island Drive in Satellite Beach.
Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay. How may we help you?
We're applying for the 2.78 feet variance just to accommodate our boat engine. I'll give you a brief history of the building of the dock we built in 2018. And we had lots and lots of discussion with the county, the surveying company, and our dock builder. And we only have 50 feet of waterfront, so it was tricky to get the boat and dock aligned within all of the setbacks, including the HOA setbacks, which are stricter than the county. So since then, we got it. We got a survey done. The post-survey was done as built. They asked us to do that. We got that. It got inspected. Everything was fine. That was in 2019 when it got inspected, and then we just went on our merry way until now. There's been an issue with our boat engine. So I do have packets here of, I have 14 of our neighbors that are in support of this variance. One's right beside us and two directly across from us. And then I have the original letters from the neighbors on either side that back in 2018 that did agree to the variance. And then also I put pictures of the bridge because this waterway is limited to the size of boat that can come through because it's a 7-foot clearance, so it's a low, so small boats like ours or pontoons can, navigate under the bridge, not all big boats. So we're on an inner canal, so we have a very limited size of boats that can get through our canal. So how do you want to?
Okay.
Make sure you turn on your mic so
Yeah, I'm
everyone
sorry.
can record you.
Thank you.
So I'll answer any questions. I mean, it really is, we're trying to accommodate our boat engine is the issue.
Okay. Your application arises in District 4. Dr. Bass is your representative today, and so we will begin the questioning with Dr. Bass.
Mine is more of a statement, or what I want to say is that I visited this property and did a thorough on-site inspection of the dock, the motorboat moored within the dock, and the motorboat mounted outboard engine. What I saw was a configuration exactly as depicted on the survey on page 27 of our packet. As shown on the survey, the outboard motor portion protrudes beyond the approved extended property line by approximately 36 inches, or 2.78 feet, into the canal right-of-way, 36 inches. I visually confirmed the navigable waterway of the inner canal, where the boat is docked, is approximately, as it says on page 27, 80 feet wide. When I was on property, there was no boat traffic on the inner canal. I was, however, able to confirm from my own property vantage point that boat traffic on the inner canal will enter and exit under the island's car bridge with 7-foot clearance as stated in question 3, thus limiting the size of any boat navigating the inner canal waterway. Referring to question 1, note that in 2019, the same dock with boat configuration passed county code inspection, and the same configuration was approved by the island's Master Homeowners Association for the planned unit development. I have no questions.
Are there any other questions from the board?
No questions.
Okay. I need to go through the procedure of asking for public
Right.
comment. So if you could step
Yep.
aside, please. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of or against this application? Yes. Please come forward, sir. I'll need to do the same with name and address and swearing you in. So name.
My name is Bruce McDonald. Our address is 64 Lanternback Island Drive. We're the property immediately to the north of the White's house.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay. Please proceed.
Yes, this is the first time that I've appeared before this board, and so
I have one
brought-
other question.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Are you speaking in favor of or against the application?
Against.
Against, okay, thank you.
This is the first time that I've appeared before this board, so I didn't know how many handouts exactly to bring. But I have one for each of you, and I don't know.
You need to get one there, we can share.
Oh, very good. My handout pretty much follows the prerequisites as identified in this variance procedure. And then I have answered each of the 6 statements that are required to be answered. So I'd like to review that with you so you can understand our position.
That would be my.
Exactly.
Would be my request, is that you just succinctly summarize.
Very good.
What your responses are.
Very good. The prerequisites start off with when it will not be contrary to the public interest where, owing to special conditions, a little enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will result in an undue hardship. Our response is that they have a boat dock with a lift where they can easily place a boat on the lift that does not protrude or hang out into the canal waterway. Therefore, the enforcement of the chapter will not result in unnecessary and undue hardship. Second item, the prerequisites go on to state that legal definition in this context and essentially means that without the requested variance, the applicant will have no reasonable use of the subject property under existing development regulations. Our response is that the applicant chose the boat. The applicant can easily choose a boat that will fit within the size limits. Going on to statement number 1, you've already read that. We know what that reads. Our response is that the particular zoning conditions apply to other properties as well as including our property, where we were required to comply with the code section and remove our boat. Statement number 2, our response to that, our response to number 2 is that they directly result about the actions. They directly result from the actions of the applicant. They chose a boat that does not fit within the 16-foot as allowed. This was a choice of the applicant. Statement number 3, our response to that is that we have been effectively denied this particular special privilege that the applicant has applied for with this variance. We were told that we must move our boat, and we moved our boat. Therefore, this is a special privilege that you've been asked to confer on this applicant that was effectively denied to us. If you confer this special privilege on the applicant, then you must also confer this special privilege on us. Statement number 4, our response to that is that we have been effectively denied this particular privilege that the applicant has applied for with the variance. We were told that we must move our boat, and we did. Therefore, this is a special privilege that you've been asked to confer on this applicant that was denied to us. Going on to number 5, our response to that is, that the applicant for the special privilege can replace their current boat with a smaller boat that fits within the requirements of the 16-foot limit. And number 6, our response to that is that if you choose to confer this special privilege onto the applicant, then you have conferred a special privilege that has been effectively denied to us. So we're the property immediately to the north. If you notice on the application that it does reference a complaint, well, you can guess we filed the complaint. And so we followed the rules and regulations, and we moved our boat at significant financial hardship. And so we strongly recommend that this variance is denied, or that you give us the same variance.
Okay.
Do you have questions, please?
Well, Dr. Bass, you have first shot at
You
questions here.
said that one of your requests for a variance was denied. Have you reapplied now that you've made the move?
No, I'm sorry if I implied that.
Yes.
We haven't, to be honest with you, I didn't know that there was a variance procedure. And I was amazed when we received the letter in the mail stating that there was going to be this hearing. And so, no, we have not applied for the variance. We were never informed about a variance. The county was, the inspector was very emphatic that we move the boat immediately. And so we complied. That was in July of last year, approximately a year ago. And so we have not, at this point, submitted a variance that we have been denied. I didn't even know we could do this, and that this, quasi-judicial board exists.
Well, now that you do know, you can apply, just as these people did. Also, on your, on the other boat that was moved, and there's 2 boats shown in the aerial view of the property, and there is only 1 boat there now. Wasn't that boat, didn't you have to move that boat because they were digging out from some of the backfill of the land? Weren't they dredging?
They dredge.
Yes.
The
Yes.
dredging unit came down our canal, like it's been indicated.
And that is why you had to move your boat, because that second boat was outside your dock?
No.
Okay. It was
No.
inside your dock, but you moved it.
Well, no. The moving of the boat it was a direct result of the county coming out, the zoning inspector, or compliance person, and he was the one, it had nothing to do with dredging whatsoever. And he was the one that said, you must move the boat with no comment or talk about, like I never even knew there was such thing as a variance on it. And he said, you must do that, or you will be subject to a $100 a day fine.
And what reason did he give that you needed to move the boat?
That it extended beyond the 16 feet.
Correct, of your land.
Into the waterway. Well, actually, they have an unusual way of measuring it. So the county does, which is, once you understand it, it's fine. It's actually 16 feet from the edge of the lot line. Well, the lot lines extend 4 feet into the waterway. So people say, well, the dock is 20 feet out. Well, yes, it is from the edge of the land, but 16 feet actually from the lot's edge. So there's a reason why they look
So
the
you
way they
can
do.
reapply for, or you can apply for a variance?
That's what the person explained to me, but that may be an alternative, but in the meantime here, they're in violation. We were absolutely required to move, and I might add to the record that we attempted very hard to find another place with a wet slip to move the boat to. There were none available. So now the boat, since last July, we had to have it removed out of the water. So it's in dry storage that we pay $1,000 a month storage for it. So yeah, there's financial hardship involved in this. That's been a year.
I just wanted to make one comment, another comment, that the extended property line that these people are basing their 36 inches on has been approved by the county. They did apply for a variance, and that was approved.
Yeah, what we're talking about there is the dock itself. The dock,
Which dock? Your dock or their dock?
Their dock. That's where this gets, you have to understand how they do this, and perhaps the person from the county that actually oversees this can comment. But the regulations, the county regulations say that the dock can extend a maximum, I think they say, they actually call it by percentage, whatever, it works out to be 16 feet.
From what are you referencing, your statements?
How the regulation actually reads.
What regulation?
The regulation on the maximum that the dock can extend into the waterway.
Without an approved variance. They have an approved variance.
No, that variance has nothing to do with the 16 feet. Their dock complies with the 16-foot. Our dock is the same. It extends.
But you haven't applied for a variance.
We don't need one. You don't need a variance for a 16-foot dock. That's, the county person is here. I don't know if one of the county people, they can explain this. The 16-foot is the limit. And
Would you
so-
like me to read the way the code is written?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
that might be helpful.
Okay. Underneath,
Just so we're clear, we're talking about a dock that is not part of this variance request. We're talking about the neighbors. So
Very good point.
this discussion has no bearing on the variance that is
Yes.
before you.
Okay,
That's my point.
Thank you.
please proceed, Mr. Moody.
says no boat dock, covered boat dock or pier, together with pilings, moored vessel or watercraft, and any waterway encroachment shall project into a man-made waterway more than 20% of the width of the waterway as depicted on the recorded instrument creating the waterway, or 30 feet from the property line, whichever is less.
So that is where the 16 feet comes from. The canal itself is 80 foot wide. It's 20% of the 80 feet. So that's where you get the 16 feet from. And then plus our lot lines extend 4 feet into the water. So that's how we get 20-foot docks. But that's not part of this variance request whatsoever. It's the boat that extends.
Yes, because that's the code. It says
That's
also
the code.
together with the moored vessel or the watercraft. So that's what they're applying for, is that moored
Yes.
vessel watercraft.
So the dock never, the dock is not a question here. It's the boat.
And the boat engine extends 36 inches beyond the approved property line.
Yeah, approved 16 foot.
Yeah, projection.
Projection.
Yes. And it does. The applicant is not denying that. It's just that we were required to move our boat, and the same should apply to them. It's clearly stated out in the statements that, you haven't denied it to us, or you haven't not allowed this somewhere else, or it doesn't get allowed, and you're contemplating allowing them to do it.
But we haven't denied it from you. You haven't applied.
We were required to move. That's effectively.
That was a different issue.
No, it's the same issue.
No, it's same.
Same issue. Same exact issue. That's why I'm here. It's,
So can
this
I,
measurement business and the 20% gets a little, can get lost in there, but I don't know what position he is, but he explained it clearly. It has nothing to do with the dock. It's the boat.
Dr. Bass, could we just take a break, let Kevin give a, thank you.
so I just want to add a comment to what Dr. Bass was saying. The applicant actually has been denied because she's got a code enforcement complaint on her existing boat for extending so far out. So she's been asked to remove her boat also, like you are. However, she took it a step further and applied for a variance, and that's why we're here, a process that you did not do, but was available to you.
Yes,
You understand that?
yes,
Okay. You are the immediate next-door neighbor,
yes.
and have you seen her boat that was protruding out too far docked at her dock?
I have a picture of it.
Have you seen it? I'm not asking for a picture, sir.
Oh.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay. And have you navigated your boat in that area while her boat was on that dock?
Well, anybody could navigate around our boat. The canal is 80 foot wide, so that's.
That wasn't his
So-
question. His question was whether you could navigate.
We hadn't had to.
Okay. Do you, in your opinion, even though you're not happy that her boat engine sticks out a little further than her dock, in your opinion, does that impede the boat traffic in that canal?
Not any more than ours did.
Not asking about yours, sir. I'm
Oh.
asking, we're focused on this application, this
Let's take that
applicant.
as a no.
I would say that's not what we're discussing here. I would say we're discussing a violation, like you said.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
It is what I'm discussing.
All right, very good.
Okay. I have no questions.
No further questions.
Okay. Ms. Mallard?
Well, what I heard, I'm very clear on my answer, so I'm
Okay.
good.
All right. I think the board is,
Very good.
Thank you.
please, yeah, take your seat. One last chance for rebuttal,
So.
still under oath.
Huh?
You're still under oath.
Okay, so we have been working to get his boat that he keeps talking about moved before we bought this house. So it's not that this just happened and they just knew about it. It's been going on since 2017. They agreed to our boat dock, and they also knew that when we put our dock in, it was to code. HOA and county. So we're at the point where we thought we did everything we should. You all came out and did the final inspection. We passed it. Like I said before, we thought we were good, and here we are because, he complained. We did complain. We were very frustrated when we were trying to ask the HOA to have him move his boat. It's a 42-foot boat on a 50-foot lot, moored on the outside of the dock. It was. Now, when they were dredging, he used the dredging company to move his boat, and that really frustrated us. So we went and called code enforcement to say, this is crazy. Why does this continue to happen? And that's how this whole thing started. So
Thank
that's why
you.
we're here. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
You're not. Oh, sorry. His side setbacks don't meet any side setbacks, county or HOA.
Okay.
In your initial presentation, you said your neighbors on both sides and across the canal are in support of.
The neighbor to our south is also in agreement, and the ones directly across from us are in agreement. He is not.
Okay.
And then I have other supporting, I can show you, there's people all around us that are like, we're fine.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we need a motion. That's your district, Dr. Bass.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted on the survey with revision date 3/6/2024.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All discussed out? Okay. Then I will read the six. Let me back up just a second. In all of that, I forgot to ask if there were any others who were here to talk in favor or against, and I assume not. I only saw one at the time, but a procedural thing, I should have asked that. Apparently not. I don't see anybody raising their hand. Okay, so we have a motion. We've had our discussion. I will read the 6 criteria that we will use to make our decision. And they are that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification, that literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Having read the 6 questions, I now call the vote. All in favor of approving the application for the variance, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the application passes. If I may make a post comment, I would encourage you to get with staff and see if you can rectify your situation. No, it's over. Don't. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item G3, variance 24V00012, William Brim, request variance to Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1401-5B, to permit a variance to allow an accessory structure forward of the front building line of the principal structure in an RRMH-1 rural residential mobile home zoning classification, and this is located at tax account number 200-5095 in District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Bodie. Would the applicant please come forward?
There. Don Human, 1965 Tranquility Lane, Titusville, Florida. I'm a general contractor and representing the client.
Okay. Is that his representation, the
Yes,
approval?
he's
It's been approved.
He's the
Okay.
applicant for the owner.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that you're going to tell us the truth?
I do.
Okay. How may we help you?
Yes, we are in the process of permitting a 30 by 30 detached garage, and in doing so, it was noticed there is an ancillary structure in the front yard that we have to take care of first. The ancillary structure is his potable water source, along with the water bladder, the pump, and the water softening system. He is the 4th owner of the property, and the original owner set the trailer at the very back of the property, and the water is obviously where the water's at. You gotta dig it where it's at. So we need to take care of that, the little shed that covers the water pump.
So I guess we move to questioning by the board. Ms. Mallard, this is your district.
Hello.
Hey there.
I visited the location on Monday and saw the property, the neighborhood, and the house and the home in Mims, Florida. You just stated something that made me change my train of thought, but what is it that you're trying to do to that accessory?
We're going to build nowhere near that structure. We're building a 30 by 30 detached garage for storage purposes.
Okay, okay. But what we're here today is to speak about the existing pump, correct?
Just the pump house, that's
Okay.
all. Yes.
So I saw the existing pump house, and I understand that we like to legitimize it today. The property was purchased on September 12th, and that's the only source of the water.
That is.
I saw that on the property. What I noticed is that it's not an eyesore. It's in front of the house. It's not blocking any traffic, or it's not even gonna devalue the values of the homes in the area. Also, I see that it's well off the road, so it's not like on the sidewalk or anything. And actually, the neighbors also are far and in between, so it's not like the houses are very close together. It's room, a lot of land, and I didn't see any problems with the variance that they're requesting today.
Okay. Any other questions? The only question I have, and as general contractor, you may not be able to answer it, but I see there's a fence. Is it a fence that runs along the front or
There is,
between?
I think he just has like a little gate there,
Okay.
fence with a gate.
Is there any thoughts, well, is there any intent to take the front half of that lot, split it off and sell it, use it?
No.
Else-
No,
yeah,
the
okay.
gentleman, it's only about an acre lot anyways.
So it's too
And
small.
what happened, it's a double-wide trailer. Whoever initially did put the trailer, they just moved it all the way to the very back of the lot, and they have a huge front yard now. Very small backyard. And so he wouldn't be doing that.
Okay. I just noticed that would, if they did divide it, they need to,
I believe it would violate the lot sizes anyways
Sizes,
for buildable
anyway.
lots in that area.
yeah,
Yes,
okay,
the
so
zoning
it's not,
classification
yeah.
requires an acre of land, and this is just 1.1 acre, so wouldn't be able
So-
to do that.
okay. Very good. Any other questions? No? Have to go through the routine? Could you
Yes.
step aside? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Good. Please come back. Final question summary, or final statement summary. Okay,
It's an
thank you.
easy one. It's his drinking water.
All right, thank you. You can take your seat.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Mallard, who resides in your district, you have the option of making the
I make a
motion.
motion to approve this survey as depicted in the survey with a signed date of 3/11/24.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, then I will move to read the 6 questions, which we are going to consider for our decision. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That the granting of the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That granting the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Having read that into the record, I will now call the vote. All in favor of the application, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your application is approved. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item G4, application 24V00013, Vyto and Sylvia Bukausas, request variance chapter 62, article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, section 62-1345B, to permit a variance of 7 feet from the required 7.5 feet west side setback for an accessory structure. Variance number 2, section 62-1345B, to permit a variance of 7.1 feet from the required 7.5 feet east side setback for an accessory structure. Variance number 3, section 62-1345B, to permit a variance to allow an accessory structure forward of the front building line of the principal structure. Variance number 4, section 62-1345B, to permit a variance of 6.6 feet from the required 7.5 feet east side setback for an accessory structure. Variance number 5, section 62-1345B, to permit a variance of 5 feet from the 5-foot separation distance required between accessory structures. Variance number 6, section 62-2118D3, to permit a variance of 6.5 feet over the 15-foot maximum projection, 20% of the width of the waterway for a boat dock, including pilings. Variance number 7, 62-2118D5, to permit a variance of 132.7 square feet over the 500 square foot maximum allowed for a roof over a boat dock, variance number 8, section 62-2118D5, to permit a variance of 35.6 square feet over the 600 square foot maximum square footage allowed for total coverage for a dock and a roofed area, and variance number 5, section 62-2100.51A, to permit a variance of 1 additional accessory structure over the permitted 2 accessory structures allowed in an RU-1-13 single-family residential zoning classification, and this is located at tax account number 2432646 in District 2.
Well, I struggle over 6 sentences.
Yeah, I need some cough medicine.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Good day. My legal name is Vyto Sylvia Bukausas. Address is 1739 Shore Drive in Merritt Island.
Okay. And raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell us the truth today?
I do.
Okay.
So this all started originally as a code violation for a trailer and a shed. And it seems like these two little issues kind of ended up mixing together and come out with the 9 variances somehow, which is kind of surprising. But we're looking to legitimize existing property features that have been there for the past 20, 30 years, 40 years in some cases. We have one shed that's your typical Ted's shed, sort of shed that is on skids, under 100 square feet, so that's a no permit required shed. We have a Rubbermaid plastic shed, which is on the east side of the property. We have a structure that is sort of a covered patio, and the commissioners out there, we were looking at it, we were kind of trying to decide on what it really was, whether it was sort of a covered pergola or whatever. But it basically is a sunshade area where I grow my orchids. And then we do have a boat dock and pilings that exceed the 20% of the canal width. The boat dock is a combination of creosote poles, so this is probably, most of the structure is built probably in the 70s, my best guess. I couldn't find any permits. I tried looking through the permits and records from back as far as I can go, and I couldn't find any details on whether this was permitted at any time. But I did find in the 1982 tax records that the boat dock, the covered patio, shed, and those structures all existed at least in 1982. So again, all I'm trying to do is legitimize what's currently there, and I know that the numbers there's a lot of numbers there, and it gets a little bit confusing. In fact, the neighbors had a hard time understanding exactly what the variance was for. They said, "Are you building something new?" I said, "No, we're just trying to keep things the way they are for now." So that's kind of all I have.
Your application arises in District 2, which, Mr. McCann, you take the floor for questioning.
Sure. I had the opportunity to visit the property, so I understand what the applicant's asking for, but I'd like to go through all 9 variances so the other board members can understand it too. Number 1, you have an existing shed on the west side of the property.
Correct.
Butt up against basically the property line.
Correct.
How long has that been there?
Ever since we lived there, 27 years minimum. So the county records go back to 82 that shows that there's a shed on the property.
And is that consistent with your neighbors?
Yes, all the neighbors have them.
All the neighbors have a shed?
Yes.
Similar to yours?
Yes.
Encroaching on the
East,
property line?
west, north, south, all around us.
Number 2 is the plastic shed on the east side of the property,
Yes.
similarly almost against the property line.
Yes.
And that's, how long has that been there?
Same time, probably 27 years.
Number 3 is the structure that looks like a pergola. It's got multiple posts.
Right.
And sort of like a framed roof without an actual then roof
Exactly.
structure on top of it.
Call it a screen room without sides, and basically it's a sunshade area,
How long has that been there?
at least 40 years, best that I can tell.
Is that similar to any other properties in your neighborhood?
Yes.
Four is also that, that same structure. It's not only built in front of the front of your house, but it's also it encroaches into the setback into the east side of the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then five is the plastic or Rubbermaid shed and that structure itself are
Too close
are
together.
too close together.
Right.
What are they, about a foot apart?
I guess technically between the post to where the sidewall of the structure is probably, it could be pushed a little bit further away technically to meet the requirement, but they're probably 2 feet away from each other.
And
I'd
they're
say.
both pretty much up against the fence?
They're both against the fence, correct.
Okay. Number six, what is number six? Okay, so six, now we're dealing with the boat dock. You have the boat dock and the pilings extending out 6.5 feet additional than the 15-foot maximum projection. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, from what I understand from the survey, the dock is about 18 and a half feet, somewhere around there.
Where approximately on your canal is your house located? Would you say, is it the middle of the canal, the beginning of the canal?
Beginning of the
Beginning
canal.
And is your canal a dead end?
Yes,
Are there any large boats?
up to 40 feet have come on, regularly.
And has your protrusion into the waterway obstructed
Never.
any of the boat traffic?
Never had any complaints, any issues with anything.
And how long has that boat dock been there?
Again, from the creosote poles and the structure, I'm guessing 30, 40 years,
Okay.
30 years in the 70s,
How long has the roof structure been on that dock?
same time frame.
So that would have been number 7. Number 8 is a 600 square foot maximum between the roof and the decking of the dock. Again, it's been there forever.
Yes,
And then number 9 is to allow more than 2 accessory structures on the property. The 2 sheds we talked about, and then that open air structure
Yeah.
that you're planting things. So I just wanted to make it clear more of what the 9 different variance requests are, so
so.
my board members can understand.
Can I
as
ask a
well.
question? On when you have unpermitted or a non-permit required shed, do you still need to, is that maximum count still hold true that you would, you could not exceed more than 2 per property, even if they were not non-permit required structures?
It's based on the size of your square footage of your lot, how many accessory structures you're permitted. For the size of square footage of your lot, you're only permitted 2.
Regardless whether they're permitted
Yes.
sheds or non-permitted
Yes,
sheds?
they're accessory structures.
Gotcha, understand.
I don't have any more questions.
Any questions? Dr. Bass?
No.
Oh, yeah, well, we've been taxed on structures, but they've been in the tax records since 1982. They've been, and been assessed on them, so.
I do have a question. I sometimes get lost in all the, so I'm going to ask you to kind of give me a summary statement, and that is, with these structures and, variances to setbacks and whatnot, should an emergency occur back in the dock or this pool area, can emergency personnel get to there
Oh,
with a
absolutely.
gurney or,
Yeah.
and just in general, it looks to me like there's a routing around to the west?
Our lot's 105 feet wide, and there's 16 and a half feet on one side, and I'd have to look back at the surveys, but there should be plenty of area to get anywhere to the canal area or into the back of the home, or if there's a fire, there's plenty of access.
Okay. That's all, just
Okay.
summary question. Any other questions for this applicant? Seeing no hands raised, need to step aside, and I need to invite, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Seeing none, please return. Any last words? No. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please be seated. Next order of business is a motion, and Mr. McCann, that's,
I'd like to make a motion to approve all 9 variance requests as depicted in the survey.
do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And Dr. Bass is seconded. Any discussion among the members here? My only comment is you did go out and visit, or comment, question. Are all of the adjacent properties this crowded with structures and accessories and things on their lot?
I think code enforcement can have a field day out there. Yes.
But they're all equally cluttered,
They,
for lack of a better word.
The majority of the properties in that neighborhood have sheds, multiple sheds, butt up against the property lines, consistent with the applicants.
Okay. It goes with the question about being in harmony with the rest of the neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. Was that motion sufficiently elaborated with all of this in the paragraphs? We're not making any exceptions. Okay. Any other discussion? Then I will try and emulate Mr. Bodie and do my best to speak my sentences. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the maximum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Having read those questions into the record, I now call the vote. All in favor of approving this application of the 9 variances, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The variance is approved. Okay, Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item G5, Rebecca Schenck, request variance, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1339-5A, to permit a variance of 11 feet from the 25-foot front setback required for a principal structure in an EU estate use zoning classification, and this is located at tax account number 2413520 in District 2.
Thank you. Will the applicant please come forward? State your name and address for the record, please.
Rebecca Schenck, and 3101 North Indian River Drive, Cocoa, Florida.
Okay. Raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony to us today?
Yes.
Okay. How may we help you?
I'm here to basically, I bought my grandmother's house that they've owned since it was built in 1961. And there's a porch off the kitchen on the riverfront. And I wanted to put a roof over it and columns, but keep it open just for the shade. I had breast cancer 4 years ago and melanoma also on my lower back. And my parents, that are here today, both had melanoma as well. And I can only use the porch half the day because the sun is too brutal. But I really love that area of the house, and I'd like to be able to use it more. So I would be going into the setback. And one of my neighbors at 3105, they also have a covered porch. It appears to be going into the setback. But I want to improve the house and the neighborhood, so.
Okay. Your application arises in District 2. And therefore, Mr. McCann, you have the floor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The proposed covered porch that you plan to, or you wish to build, that would be built over an existing concrete porch that's already there?
That's correct.
So there'd be no difference in what the foundation's
No.
like right now?
It was a remodel in the 90s.
So you're encroaching, you want to encroach, and it already encroaches on the setback, the way it
Right.
is now.
Right.
So do you know how much distance there is between the front of your property line and the actual street, Indian River Drive?
Wasn't it 10 feet and 9 inches?
So if that's accurate.
Okay.
In addition to the setback that you have, or the encroachment you have that extra buffer of 10+ feet.
Right.
Between your property line and the street.
Correct.
And
yes.
what's the condition, or what does that extra land appear to be?
It's just grass.
It almost feels like your own property, right? There's no difference between,
Yes.
you wouldn't even know where the property line is.
That's correct.
Would it surprise you if I told you that when I measured it, it measured out to 25 feet? That the space between the front of your property line and the street, so you have an extra 25 feet of property.
Extra?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So it is a large buffer there. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
No questions.
No questions.
You guys are beating me to it. The only question I have is, I'm not good at, I am good at maps, but this is a small map. Is this in the area where the tree trimming controversy is going on, or are you further north?
Oh,
I think you're further north.
Where is that happening?
It's further south.
Okay. Yeah.
No, okay, all right.
Yeah,
The
we're
only
north.
reason I bring that up is because if they decide to expand the road or something, but
Okay.
that's not part of this. No, that's my only question.
Okay.
So, as a procedure, could you step aside?
Yes.
And we'll see if anyone in the audience has wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Apparently not, so please return to the microphone. Any final words?
Nope. Just-
Okay, please take your seat.
Thank
you. Mr. McCann, motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the variance request as depicted in the survey.
Second?
A second.
It's on, Ms. Mallard seconds. Any discussion?
I've visited the property, and there's a significant amount of space between the projected covered patio and the street, with an extra 25 feet of county-owned land or land that's not theirs. So when they have the front setback requirements, there's an additional 25 feet of extra space. That's a buffer. There's an existing concrete patio that they just really want to build a roof over for shade. And if I could say anything, I mean, it seems like there's a significant amount of construction going on right now, and it's a beautiful home that needs the improvements, and the patio as it exists now is not aesthetically appealing, and I just believe with the covered patio or the roofed-in patio, it would tremendously improve not only that property but the neighborhood.
Any other discussion? Just want to remind our board members that we have seen this type of condition on commercial properties along 520 out on Merritt Island, where the commercial building was set way back behind the drainage, and we allowed them to put signage closer to the road, but no one would know because of the property lines are obscured by the landscaping. So I will read into the record the 6 questions. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Having read those questions into the record, I now call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Your variance passes. Thank you. Did we say we had 7 today or just 6?
There's 6.
6, okay. Mr. Bodie, could we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item G6, variance 24V00016, David and Robin Young, request variance chapter 62, article 6, Brevard County Code, section 62-2118D3 to permit a variance of 34 feet over the 30-foot maximum projection allotted for a boat dock, together with piling and moored watercraft into a man-made waterway. And this is located at tax account number 2507670 in District 2.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
David Young, it's 1845 South Tropical Trail, Merritt Island.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you give us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. How may we help you?
Okay, we're trying to build a dock off of our property, not actually off our property, on our property. We're at the end of a small canal, and there's not enough off our bulkhead to go out into the canal. So we're going down our property to the west and to where there's some deeper water where we could put a boat lift. But our projection off that, I mean, if it was all bulkheaded, it would be just like every other dock on the canal running east and west. But our property there is not bulkheaded, it's just natural waterway. We're not trying to go out into the waterway at all to dredge the waterway. all be on our property, well inside of our boundary line.
Okay. Your application arises again in District 2 with Mr. McCann.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Probably have several questions.
Could I bring my builder up? He's much better at the technical questions.
The contractor.
The contract.
I'll need to name and address for that.
Rennell Burial, 3420 North Courtney Parkway, Unit 119. I'm the owner of Pelican Coast Marine Dock and Seawall, and I'm a Marine One contractor.
Do you swear that the testimony you have asked today is the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. If whoever's speaking, speak into the microphone.
You passing me the helm?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
All right, I went out to the property. I could walk there from home, just so you know. I'm familiar with this property. I know it was in really poor condition a couple years ago. It was fortunately purchased and remodeled. It's beautiful now, and it really stood out in the neighborhood before it got remodeled. So, just as a neighbor, I appreciate that you fixed it up and improved the neighborhood. When you're in the backyard, and I'm going to look at the overview.
Yes, sir.
Not obviously to scale, but I'm going to look at the overview. And the location, the long bulkhead seawall to the north side of the backyard.
Yes, sir.
Is a waterway. That's a canal, and there would be no room to build a dock there.
No, sir. Well, it would just be a fishing pier or something to lay out and get sun, but not to actually moor a vessel or lift a vessel.
So the only option would be to come off the back of the property, the very rear of the property, and extend into sort of the natural and not the man-made part of the canal.
That is correct.
There is some bulkhead seawall.
Yes, sir.
At that, I guess it'd be the west side of the property, or the very rear of the property that you'd be coming off.
That is correct.
The plan is to be within the side setbacks on that.
Oh, yes, sir.
On that bulkhead.
And if the board would like, I've got so when we submitted this permit several months ago, it initially passed through all the building departments, and then ultimately zoning marked it deficient because it exceeded the 20% rule. But when you look at it, you know that it's a dredged man-made canal. What you're referring to that the Young family owns is a natural waterway that was flooded when that canal was dredged in the 50s or 60s. So it's a two-prong situation we had, because the whole purpose of building the boat dock for the Young family was for them to be able to put their watercraft. The problem is that canal, I've been in it personally on three different occasions. It hasn't been demucked or dredged in years, and I know the Army Corps of Engineers, that's on one of their plans to do here in the near future. But when I jumped in personally, from my knee to my foot was just muck. So in other words, no boat, even a neighboring boat, couldn't run their boat in there because they'd run aground. It's just nasty. So we have to project that far out to get at least 2.5 foot of water column. So when the Young family has, hopefully, the boat lift installed, they've got enough water column to submerge the cradle and the bunks of the lift to float their vessel off.
So where you're projecting to build out to into the natural waterway.
Yes, sir.
Is it's deep enough there?
Yes, sir. That's why we have to go out the 50 foot, the 50 linear feet for the finger pier, and then the additional 12 foot for the boat lift. So I actually have one of the requirements from the county was when I do a plot plan for all my dock builds, it's just basically a printout of the digitally signed and sealed boundary survey, and then I just hand sketch, not to scale, of course, of what I'm going to do with all my dimensions, my layout, and I have a copy of that for you guys today if you'd like to see it. But they required that we actually go back to the survey company, Mr. Nielsen, and have him impose a scaled drawing, because that was one of the concerns that the Natural Resources Department had, was that we were not going to impact any of the surrounding mangroves, which we're not going to. And if you'd like, I can show you those two documents so you can see it. No, I got it right here.
If you, good.
Do you have a copy
This
of it?
survey, this survey that's attached to the application, is that the one that the surveyor put together? Or is this your sketch?
No, that is the actual to-scale survey of what the dock's going to look like.
And the surveyor drew this?
Yes, sir, to scale, based off my engineer drawings, which are right.
Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, can you always speak into the mic so we can have it pick up on the recording?
Did you want me to repeat that? No. Oh, okay, I apologize. So yes, just to repeat what I said, that's, yes, sir, the survey you just showed me, that is from Mr. Nielsen with the scaled drawing of how the dock will look and where it's going to, and the layout of it into the young family's private parcel of land.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So did I hear you say that Department of Natural Resources have evaluated this?
Yes, they've already approved it. The permit's been approved entirely through all the building departments within the county, with the exception of the zoning department, which is the reason we're here today.
Does it need to, has it been evaluated by the Department of Environmental Regulation as well?
It's not required. It's a
Not
man-made
required.
canal, yes, sir. That would only be on a Class 2 waterway or on an aquatic preserve, which they're not on.
Okay. And so there will be no interruption or no destruction of the existing mangroves?
Absolutely not.
I have a couple questions for the actual applicant that you probably
Sure.
wouldn't be able to answer.
Sure.
Sir, have you had an opportunity to be back there in a boat or a kayak?
Not behind that mangrove island, no.
You've never been back there?
No, I don't believe, maybe you can get a kayak through there, but it's very,
Have you seen anyone kayak?
Our
through-
neighbors do.
You-
They
na-
kayak back there.
Okay.
And they have an opening. That's why we're not closing it off.
Again, if you
you're
want,
gonna talk,
she needs to
you
be up in
need
the
to be
microphone.
front. Yeah, and be sworn in too.
Name and address?
My name is Robin Young, 1845 South Tropical Trail, Merritt Island.
Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, our across the way, Michelle Hunt, she loves her kayak. And that's the one thing they don't mind us putting the lift there, is because they can still get behind there with their kayak. Because right now, because the water's so low, that's all that can get behind there is kayaks.
When the dock and the boat lift is constructed, will there still be room for a kayak to navigate through there?
Yes.
It's not going to seal off the entire
Nope.
access. So I just want to, for the record, I want to just comment on something your contractor mentioned about extending out 20% out to the width of the waterway. Yes, you're entitled to 20 feet, but a maximum 30 feet.
Correct.
Just want, and you want to go out, you want to exceed that maximum 30 feet by another 34 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
to avoid getting too close to the
Make
mangrove.
sure you speak into the microphone so we
The
can pick
whole
it up.
purpose to go out that far is to stay away from the mangroves
And for the water depth.
and the water depth. There's no water.
I've been out there. There's a small open body of water
Yeah.
between the mangroves that are adjacent to your bulkhead, and then I would just call it the mangrove island. And you want to use that small body of water to construct your dock in that area,
Correct.
which is 100% on your property.
Correct.
And none of it extends into the actual navigable canal.
That is
Is that
correct.
right?
No,
Okay.
I have a copy of the engineer's drawing for the Corps of Army Engineers where they plan to dredge. It shows it's well away from this area.
I'll
if you'd
I'll
like to
take
see
your
that.
word for it.
If I can say, so that was what I mentioned earlier about the two-prong test. The number one prong was what I explained about being able to project the dock out on their private parcel to get into enough of the water depth for them to actually have a functional boat lift. But number two was to take great consideration for the surrounding neighbors, because the dock that we're building is only 344 square feet total, no roof. So it's far less in square footage than the surrounding neighbors. If you look on that canal, there's probably almost a dozen homes on that canal that have docks. And then so as we're projecting out to the west from the bulkheaded side of the Young family's house, we're not projecting a solitary inch to the north, which is the navigable portion of the canal. So constructing it in this manner would not hinder any of the surrounding neighbors from being able to access their vessels and use that canal as they currently do today.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Take your seats. So, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this, this application? Seeing none, I think you have a chance for summary, but I think you've said everything you need to. We need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted in the survey.
A second.
Mr. McCann has made the motion to approve the application as depicted in the survey, seconded by Ms. Mallard. I will read the 6 criteria. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to the other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Having read those into the record, I call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your application passes unanimously. And I believe we have no more applicants today. I call this meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.